Hey everybody, World War Guy here today, and today I actually want to talk about different ideas of how I display my items that may be helpful for any of you out there. As we can see, we kind of have a preview right here, but this whole idea is that when you start collecting, you start getting overwhelmed with how much you might have, especially if you start buying a lot of things without even realizing it. And the question is, how do I display this? And there's a lot of different ways, of course. You can just put it on a shelf and leave it the way it is, or you can try to do something fancy with it, try to make it or try to incorporate it with your maybe house designer or things like that. There's a lot of different ways to display something. And so this video, we're going to look into different ways that I display my items that I think are very cool, very interesting at least, and make the items pop, or at least make them more noticeable than if they were just on a dusty shelf back in the corner. So this video, of course, is for anyone who's getting into it, or those who have been collecting for a long time but haven't really figured out how they want to properly display their items. So hopefully this helps some of you, if not most of you. With that being said, let's start looking at some of my examples. Okay, so for our first example, as we saw at the beginning of the video, we have this shelf right here. Now this shelf you can use for books, as you can kind of see down in the, oops, there's my finger. As you can kind of see down in the corner right there, you can just use it for books, which is great for that. But if you want to incorporate some of your collections, I highly recommend this. Now, as I stated in other videos or so on, I really don't like dust. And so I actually got these ball cases. I got these at Hobby Lobby. They usually go for sale quite often for 50% off, which is a good deal. At least you're saving some money there. And they're normally designed for balls, such as basketballs, soccer balls, anything like that, really. Of course, you can repurpose them and put some items in there, and you can kind of decide what you want to put in there. But what I did is, aside from just putting them in these cases and keeping it, saying, job well done, I'm done, I decided to actually put books in between them because, well, the cases, you can't really just put 4 cases on there and then just 3 with empty space would look a little odd. So you can put some books between them and actually kind of makes it more interesting, to say the least. You have more color in there as well, and more storage for your books, and it kind of just evens out pretty nicely. And of course, you can put things on top and things in the front. That's entirely up to you. And as we can see on the top here, I did install some lights. These are just from IKEA. They're just simple lights that you kind of use sticky pads to stick them to the top. So there's no actual tools needed for it. But I like this because now you can actually see the pieces, because sometimes when you have it on a shelf in a room, the room doesn't light up well enough to probably see what's in the display. So at least now you can see what's in the display very easily. Next item here is, or next ideas is these display cases. So these I got from IKEA. Don't remember the name for them, but it doesn't matter because they are discontinued. But you get any sort of display case where it's mainly glass with, of course, some frames to hold everything together with shelves, and that is a perfect way to display your items because, one, of course, it keeps dust out of them. It's enclosed, so it's kind of safe from other things, I guess. But you can install lights as well, as I did here. So let's take a closer look at that. So although the lighting kind of makes it hard to see, you can kind of get the idea. But what I did is I bought these light strips that simply have adhesive on them, and you can just place it on the shelf itself, kind of run it around the entire shelf, and they just plug into the wall. I got these. Just turn it on and it lights up everything. This is great because, as explained with the other display, sometimes you put something in a cabinet and no matter how bright your room may be, it is still a little too dark in the actual cabinet to see everything, especially items in the very back. So this way, you can see everything very easily. And if you decide to not turn on the lights in the room, you can just turn the shelves on, and it kind of gives you that museum vibe, where some museums are very dark and the only lighting is really from the display cases themselves. So it kind of gives that museum vibe. All right, and then here we have another idea, and here we can have the open shelf concept, which is very popular for people because it just costs less than getting something that's completely enclosed. Of course, you can get these shelves from anywhere, from any store. You can display it however you'd like. And of course, I attached lights on the bottom of each shelf, so that would light the one under it. Of course, the wiring could be done better and more hidden, but this was the easiest way and doesn't bother me, but of course that's up to you. And then the question is, what do you do if you have magazines, posters, paper items, things like that? Well, actually, use picture frames. This is the best way to display these things. It will keep them safe from anything. In case you need to move them, you're not going to accidentally tear the pages or anything like that. It's easy to just stack them. Although you can argue it's easy to stack magazines to begin with, but you understand what I'm trying to say. And then you can just hang them on the wall. So instead of just piling them on your desk or your shelf or things like that where they're not properly seen, you can display it like this. And it, again, adds color to your collection room, war room, however you want to call it. Such as with this massive poster there with a bunch of red on it. Kind of makes the room pop compared to having mainly gray, black, green, brown colors in your collection. So of course this is a great way to display the different magazines, especially if you have them from other countries or time periods. You can really see the differences in these magazines compared to what we're used to today. I really like using this. Like I said, it really protects the magazines and it kind of just makes the room pop more. Makes it more inviting if that's something you're looking for. Otherwise, it's just really cool to see the different designs. And of course, I have these awesome helmet stands. Please ignore the holes in the wall. Obviously, I have changed the position of some of these displays. That's something I need to fix. But, nonetheless, these helmet displays, you can get them on eBay. It's kind of wobbly, but as long as you don't touch it, it's not too bad. These are great because you can have the helmet out of the shelf, giving you more space for any of your field gear, such as pouches, canteens, etc. And it kind of puts it on the wall. Cool mount for them. You can really look all around it, easily take it off without having to disturb the rest of your collection. Just makes it look really cool. I really recommend these if you have a lot of helmets. Of course, buying them individually, and so on, it does cost more money than buying a shelf. So if you want to do this for one or two really special helmets in your collection, definitely a great idea, but something to consider. And of course, since we see it in the background, the rifles, this is up to you, depending on how you want to keep your rifles safe. I like to have them on walls here. Of course, because of this, they are more exposed to humidity, weather changes and things or temperature changes, things like that. But of course, because of that, I do make sure that they are well oiled, well taken care of, that in case there's anything wrong, I can just put them in a gun bag and if I want to hide it. But otherwise, you can just get these hooks. I think I got these off Amazon. They're padded so they won't scrape the stock or anything like that. And if you do decide to display it on your wall, it looks very neat. Better than having it in a corner inside of a safe or things like that. But again, that depends on how you want to keep your rifles. If you want to keep them well protected in a well-designed safe, or if you would rather display them so we can see what they look like. That is, of course, up to you. And on the top side there, as we see it, mess kits. So what I do is you can put a thumbtack or a screw or nail, whatever you prefer. Put it in the wall and just have the mess kit hang from there. This is, again, great because you're saving shelf space. And it just looks really cool having them all lined up. Of course, the more you have, the more interesting it can look. There's a cool way to display mess kits. Again, they get out of the way from the shelves, so you have more space for your other items. And it just makes your wall look a lot cooler. Let's not lie. Okay, and as I explained with the magazines, putting them in picture frames, this is also a great idea for bills. Now, of course, bills, they have designs on each side, so you can't flip them over as easily as you'd have to open up the frame. But nonetheless, this is a great idea because as you can see, for example, with these bills here, they're starting to tear. They're really not in the best shape. And at least this way, I am protecting the items themselves, allowing me to keep them for longer. Now, I know that there are some special folders or however they're called for bills, but sometimes it's hard to find the right dimensions, as a lot of the ones that I found, for example, are really for American dollar bills or American bills. So, of course, the sizing may be more difficult to find if you're looking for foreign notes, such as the one in front of you right here. So the great idea with this is, of course, you can put more in there. You can have a bunch from, a certain country or a certain time period or a certain design choice, etc. And then, of course, place it on your wall, shelves, things like that. And it just brings more interest to the room as you come in, you see all the military, and then boom, you see some bills hanging on the wall. Makes it for a very interesting display, of course. All right, everybody. That was the video. That is kind of the whole idea. Hopefully you guys found something interesting from this video. Hopefully you got some ideas or at least some inspiration for something similar that you'd want to do. So of course, if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, write a comment, especially if this helped you. I'd like to know if this helped you, if these displays were good displays or if it's just me. But otherwise, please share and subscribe. But besides that, You guys have a great day.